Hello and welcome to a late Valentine's Day special of Media Musings.
We'll try to be
better late than never.
Once, as always, special thanks to my two patrons, Santi the Thane and GeoSam. And hello to Dog in the chat, and of course, hello to anyone who may be lurking or watching in the future.
So this week,
this
greatest love story ever told.
Yeah.
Okay, am I going to have to quickly? Am I going to have to quickly just move my laptop for a second?
You're both being very thematic today.
Okay. Greatest.
Yeah.
Those aren't the lovers.
What I have to put up with, folks. Yeah.
But it might show that I'm a little bit of a fan.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. We've all been looking forward to this one, I think.
Yeah. That is trippy as hell. That is fucking
the
like,
green
that
screen.
Is like, that green screen is that's like an acid trip.
Like a proper acid trip is that. I can't wait for the day Ring tries it wearing a green shirt. You know, I may buy Ring a green shirt just to see how that looks. Like floating head.
You know what? You know what? Maybe someday, like for like Halloween or something, we'll do the Invisible Man.
Yeah, and what you can do if you bring your green screen down, like behind your back.
Yeah.
And wear something green, and you can just be a floating head.
Yeah.
It's the Great Pumpkin, one ring.
Yes.
So hey, Slim in the chat. Hi.
Yeah.
So yeah, greatest love story ever told.
Slim.
Yes.
See you, my friend.
But I'm gonna say this with a caveat because it's the greatest love story ever told, but only because we've never told the story of how we met.
I'll start you off then. How hard did you have it growing up, Noodle?
Oh, when I were a lass.
Yeah.
When I were a lass, we lived in a puddle.
You had a puddle.
Luxury.
Luxury.
But so before we get into business, we do have something that might be potentially problematic, or that we need to decide whether or not it's actually problematic. So, when Wade refers to Ajax as Francis, is he dead naming?
No.
Yeah.
Francis is Francis.
Yeah.
Francis is his bad guy name.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's no. I don't think it's dead naming.
Like in my opinion, it'd be like a certain bespectacled wizard calling his nemesis Tom.
Tom. Yeah. It's a taunt. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it actually happens in that series.
Yeah.
And the nemesis flips his lid.
Yeah.
It's I think in this one it's because it is like just this little thing of taking away the sinisterness of this villain. Who's using the name Ajax, he got it
off the dish soap.
Which
he didn't get it from the Greek myth, got it off the dish soap.
I was going to say, isn't that a character in the Iliad?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Or a Dutch football club, depending on your
Though that reminds me that the dish soap is technically a pun because their tagline is stronger than grease.
Yes. It is, yes.
Yeah. It's a classic pun.
It is. It's yes. I love you, but I also hate you. Ajax the Great, yes.
Yes.
Oh,
ow.
So, yes. Stronger than Grease.
Yes.
Now, as it's belated Valentine's,
Yes.
I've already referenced it. The greatest love story ever told.
Yes.
Deadpool and his Wham album.
But
I want to talk about Deadpool and the sheer beautiful audacity this character has for utterly turning every social convention and every trope of toxic masculinity on its head.
Yeah.
And sticking 2 fingers up at it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
which I mean
obviously
makes sense when you go back to the comics a little bit, because one, he started as a Slade, as a Deathstroke ripoff, and then when he got his own series and they started turning it into a meta comic satire, he became essentially a satire of Deathstroke, who was this uber tough, not 90s edge mercenary bad guy.
Well, when they were people at Marvel were pitching this character and all the things he was having, it was apparently someone that said, this sounds just like Deathstroke out of DC.
Yeah.
And I think, so it kind of went from there, okay, Slade Wilson, we'll make him Wade Wilson. Instead of Deathstroke, we'll say Deadpool.
Yeah.
It was, but it didn't quite, even though the character always had an element of humor. I'm trying to remember whether it was when Christopher Priest took over or whether it was Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness who took over. That I can't remember when it was, when they just decided to go full on
satire.
And the fact that you could have a character that existed within the Marvel universe, but was self-aware.
Yeah.
And very meta.
Self-aware, meta.
Though technically
broke the fourth wall. Talk to us.
Yeah. His superpower is that he knows he's in a comic book.
Yeah, he knows he's not going to. It's like, and it's also the fact that what made it so appealing in the comics is that so many the other characters around him didn't get it. Because they were not self-aware. I mean, there was like
I will say, Deadpool is more famous for it, but She-Hulk technically did it first.
Oh yeah, She-Hulk did it a bit before that.
Yeah, and I mean, the fun of this is this film does not shy away from the fact that it was a Valentine's Day release.
Yeah.
This film is very much of the season it was released in, and the meta humor is very right from the start of, my boyfriend told me this was a romantic comedy. And,
Can I just explain why I might be single right now? I did take my ex to see this. I'm pretty sure I took my ex to see this on Valentine's Day. Might explain why I'm single. I don't. No. Actually, that's not why I'm single, because she thought it was hilarious. But
I was gonna say, if she didn't find that funny, you took the wrong person to see it, because the reason we're married is that Ring took me to see that on Valentine's Day.
Our one in-person Valentine's Day date was going to see Deadpool and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies as a double feature.
Oh, that's an excellent double head there.
Yeah. Deadpool was definitely better, but Pride and Prejudice and Zombies wasn't much of a slouch either.
Yeah.
Although it's a bit weird. We spent a lot of time snarking about it. But it was fun. And to be fair, I knew what I was walking into with Deadpool. I'd seen the adverts and the trailers.
Well, I think some people had seen. I know some people had seen the trailers and that were not familiar with the character and didn't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, those who were comic book fans got Deadpool, and this was they wanted a Deadpool movie after obviously the character was first introduced. At least in film, in the X-Men Wolverine's origin,
you
which
mean
got panned, and rightfully so.
You mean no? You used the wrong word. You said introduced. You meant eviscerated.
Yeah.
I will
the
say
fact that they got Ryan Reynolds, the actor who did that, so to come back and do this, and I can't think of anybody playing Deadpool now other than Ryan Reynolds.
Listen, look. Let me just clarify something. Ryan Reynolds doesn't play Deadpool. Deadpool plays Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, it was.
Well, also, and
that's very much.
We are gonna, So let's go ahead and discuss the production history of this, and actually hold on. I am
speaking of that. For production
the
and direction, dogs already put it in the chat there.
And actually, I'm gonna stop my green screen because it's making me lag bad.
Okay.
So, anyways, after X-Men Origins Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds, was pushing for a Deadpool movie hard
for years. Yeah.
Yeah. And the only reason it actually got made was because test footage got leaked onto the internet, and everyone started like, "We want this fucking movie now."
Yeah.
And and then like the studio's like, "Okay, but it'll be PG-13," and I'm like, "No, we want an R-rated Deadpool movie now."
That's the sort of thing I will say. Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah,
he obviously read the books. He gets the character. He totally gets the character.
Yeah,
and so obviously saw the complete the potential in this character.
Yeah. Well, and like it's obvious that the writers had read the Deadpool books because we see nods to like supporting characters.
I do just again, we've discussed this, but fourth wall. What fourth wall?
Yeah,
it's like fourth wall break inside a fourth wall break.
That's like 16 walls.
Yeah.
But also, so Fox, Fox is like, okay, you'll make an R-rated Deadpool movie, but we're completely eviscerating your budget.
So they made it on a shoestring.
Hence, and I did like the little joke made in the film about that, like that. Not many people here at the mansion. It's almost as if the studio couldn't afford any more X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or what was the other one? There's jokes throughout about the budget there.
Obviously, you got to understand that Deadpool kind of falls under the purview of X-Men, which is kind of why Fox had the rights to make this.
I will say what I do like, because we've had this conversation on Media Musings before about Hollywood Ammo.
Yeah,
we have, and I knew this was a different kind of film from the very start.
Yeah,
because he counted his bullets.
Yes,
and he counted them properly.
Yeah.
And from the very start, I like this character from that because I was just like, this dude gets it.
Yeah.
This dude understands what pisses people off in a cinema.
Yeah, and then, someone wasn't counting. Bang.
That dude's got the right idea. He wore the brown trousers.
That was my favorite, one of my favorite lines of it. Hey, I wear red to hide the blood. This guy's got the right idea. He wore the brown pants.
No, I was referring to later in the fight when one of the bad guys runs out of ammo.
Yeah, he wasn't counting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like the little blind lady. I love her as
Blind Al. Blind Al is a character from the comics. She is
amazing.
Yeah, she's Deadpool's roommate, and she basically Blind Al is a satire of the kind of Marvel trope where the ugly character has a blind friend that gets them, or a blind girlfriend. Like the Thing's girl, significant other for a while was Alicia Masters, who was got past who was blind.
Yeah. I think as well, she gave me, and I don't know if it's the same actress, but she gave me such Matrix Oracle vibes.
I think she might have been the same actress.
I got those vibes from her.
2 seconds, I'll try and find that.
She has that look. And she was so, because she's the voice of reason and common sense in this entire movie. She's just like, he's at the thing, and she's just like, yeah, salt to get rid of blood, or wear red, dumbass. And the idea, if you're gonna do jokes about disability, jokes about being blind, this movie is a
no, it wasn't.
thing of how to do it.
It wasn't the same actress at all. No,
it wasn't. But
the actress in the Matrix actually died in 2001, and the final Matrix film was a posthumous release.
Though actually,
similar vibes. So I see what.
Though actually, the she was also in Roots.
To be fair, every American black actor who was around at that time was in Roots. Roots is like it's like the black actors. It's all the names are there, but I just. She was just fun to me, and that is how you do a disability joke.
I mean, I think what you got to say about Deadpool as a film, that this isn't the first time that people have done a parody of superhero movies.
No.
By any stretch of imagination, you can go back to things like Mystery Men, and then in the Scary Movie series, they did that superhero movie. And even stuff that have been based on comics, like Kick-Ass, which was a parody of superheroes. Deadpool stands out as something like completely different from the rest of them. Instead, perhaps because it is set with actual characters from the comics, and it is the self-awareness kind of thing.
Yeah,
Deadpool
I think as well
stands out amongst like these parodies and spoofs on that genre, and it was especially with the fact that perhaps with some of those other movies, like I mentioned, that superhero movie and Mystery Men, those were sort of made before superheroes were the big thing, and everyone was making superhero movies. Deadpool came at the right time, I think, to be a parody. It was
and very much pitched itself to the mainstream, which a lot of previous comic parodies didn't.
And the fact that it was a character from Marvel as well, and that could fit into that whole universe. And it would. The thing with Deadpool is even if people were not familiar with Deadpool from the comics, could watch that film and fall in love with that character
and enjoy it. I mean, I was not familiar with Deadpool at all. I remember when Ring said to me, "Oh, it's Deadpool," and I was like, "Who the hell's Deadpool?
Yeah.
Is this part of the Avengers unit? What is this?"
Yeah.
And then he was like, Ring was like, that person from the Wolverine movie, and I was like, which person? And I went back and watched the Wolverine movie, and I was like, you mean the dude in the black coat? And I couldn't grasp, and I was just like, really? That dude? Why is he getting? Who is he? He was on screen for like 3 minutes. What the hell? And I was just like, okay, I'll trust you. And then I started seeing the trailers. I was like, okay, I'm up for this.
Okay,
But I will. This character, I just, he's so modern, he's so fresh, and there's something that appeals to like right from the start. I do love that they fought for the R rating because some of the comments right from the start. I do love the I'm gonna call it the 12 months of Sexmas montage.
Yeah.
It is just
Happy
fantastic.
Women's Day.
Yeah, happy International Women's Day.
I'm just going to say I don't think anal with a strap on is necessarily a requirement for International Women's Day.
No, but it's probably much appreciated, you know, depending on who you're with. So, you know.
Yeah. We don't keep shame here, so, you know.
Yeah, Deadpool is canonically pansexual, identifies as such. For me, the impression I got of Deadpool is almost, in the 80s, they would have called him metrosexual. He's kind of anything goes, let's give it a shot, I'll try anything once.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's nice to see that positive representation of adult sexuality that's not just vanilla, straight up PIV, you know. And yes, it's played for laughs, but it's not played with him as the butt of the joke because he's doing these things. The laugh is that it's unexpected, not that he does it at all.
Yeah, and I think the other thing was, as I said, the time. I think one of the big things about this movie was the timing of its release was so.
Yeah.
Was and it was mentioned earlier the way it kind of almost turns toxic masculinity on its head. When toxic masculinity was a real talking point when this movie came out as well.
I mean, there's even that joke in the bar where he sends the big biker guy and he says, you know, sends him a shot. And orders it. What was it? Baileys with whipped cream on top. And sends him the shot, and we find out the shot's called a blowjob, and it starts a fight. And he can do it because he's so secure in his masculinity and sexuality that he finds it funny to wind men up who aren't.
Yeah. Or with the pizza, with the pizza boy.
With the pizza boy again, it's that he's so secure. He doesn't have to pause. He doesn't have to pause.
I like the whole thing because you think he's there for the guy in the room. So, actually, no, I'm here for the delivery boy.
Yeah.
You know, and you could almost sense the delivery boy wet himself at that moment. You know.
Yeah.
But the thing, even that, like, he's, you know, he can afford to be merciful occasionally because he's an all right guy. Yeah, he's an asshole, but he's also, you know, he's not too bad. His heart's in the right place.
He will say multiple times, "I'm not a hero."
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a hero.
That's
he's
a big
definitely
thing.
not a hero.
He's not a hero, and he knows he's not a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he does play into those tropes. But I think what I like as well, his relationship with the girl. They are equals from the very start with Vanessa.
Yeah.
She meets him toe to toe. She walks up to this guy in a bar where mercenaries hang out, and she's bold as brass and twice as confident.
Yeah.
And she says, and he's hitting on her, and she's hitting back, and she's toe to toe with him. Everything. She's always got an answer for him.
Yeah.
And I love that relationship of equals and that banter that they have. To me, that is. I mean, that's the relationship ring I have.
See that she's almost saying, "Hey, if you want any of my time, you got to pay for it."
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
and
balls and holes.
Yeah, kind of thing. And but the fact that he doesn't initially go to the whole, hey, can I just pay you to have sex thing? Can I just pay to take you out for an hour, for 48 minutes, I believe it is, or whatever.
48 minutes of whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. And he does, and you know, so you'd immediately think at that thing. It's like, okay, he's going to get his end away in those 48 minutes, and no, not what he does. Not what Deadpool
48 minutes becomes 48 weeks.
Yeah.
This is a woman, basically, this shows immediately she's a woman who knows her worth. And is, you know, and she's got the sense of humour to keep up with him, and that matters so much, especially like the whole Four Yorkshiremen thing that they rip off.
Yeah.
It is absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I
Seen
love it.
the Monty Python sketch, the
Yeah.
Yorkshireman, you'll get that reference noodles just made. But it is
Yeah,
the
it's
whole,
the one-upmanship,
yeah,
isn't it?
it's the one-upmanship. But I had it harder than you had it, like,
Yeah.
like
You had a dishwasher luxury. We were lucky to have a kitchen.
That's like, my dad put cigarettes on my skin. Out on my skin. Well, where else would you put them out?
Lardy die. You had heating,
Yeah. And then that's beautiful because at the end as well, that's how he reconnects with her.
Yeah.
I live in a crack house and we huddle for warmth, and she's like, "Huh, you live in a house."
Yeah.
And it's that moment of, okay, we can fix this.
And
they've still got it.
That which kind of brings us to the other love in Deadpool's life. Love/friendly rivalry. in the meta sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. His name rhymes with Pulverine.
Deadpool's got a crush, folks. Deadpool's definitely got a crush.
And it goes even better, because there's always a little. It gets even better with some of the trailers for Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you ever saw the Superman trailer, which I think is one of the funniest film trailers.
Tell you what, one of the most underrated jokes in this movie.
Yeah.
When he meets the guy in the bar and he calls him Agent Smith.
Yeah.
One of the most underrated blinking you miss it moments in this movie. He's absolutely, utterly fantastic.
Yeah.
Because the whole Matrix callback immediately of, but there's, how I was saying earlier about how there's certain ways that you can do jokes and make them funny, like they did the joke about her being blind with the IKEA set.
Yeah.
There's a rape joke in there as well, and again, if you're gonna do a rape joke, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
There's jokes. The one thing that it doesn't joke about, I think, is race. Which, I mean, fair, because there's only one black character, and that would have felt a bit too close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, well, I mean, even his girlfriend's mixed race. She looks mixed race to me. I don't know where she's from or what her background is, but she's not white.
So, I will say, so there is one joke in Deadpool that actually, upon rewatching it, got better with age and almost like prescient.
Go on.
So, Ajax's, hench lady, Angel, is played by Gina Carino.
Have anybody heard of her? She's been in the news until recently.
And Wade calls her an angrier Roseanne Barr.
Oh, isn't that just... hasn't that joke aged? That's a thing of a joke that's aged well.
Yeah.
That's a very good,
Yeah.
And again, that's something I noted down. I've got my little list here.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of little sort of gags in this movie that really... I love the whole... again, if you're going to do your stereotypical Indian taxi driver...
Yeah. Dopinder. Now,
I love Dopinder. I wanted a Dopinder spin-off movie.
Though I think that the two main secondary, the two secondary characters that were written specifically for this movie and not lifted from the comics were Vanessa and Dopinder.
Yeah. I mean, Dopinder's just fun to me because he seems jolly and soft, and then we find out he's got his love rival in the trunk. Oh, what?
and I love the whole thing of Wade's like, that's not what I meant when I said you've got to go. It says good job. Yeah, because he's like,
because he's got,
Colossus
he's got
and,
Colossus.
Colossus in the back seat.
Negasonic Teenage Warhead in the, and I've got to say, mainly to play Colossus, I think, because Colossus is the character in this who is trying to embody the
trying to be the
heroic
moral
ideal.
arbiter.
He's trying to be the moral. I mean, even when he has the fight with Gina Carano's character, and like suddenly realizes like, oh, her breast is exposed. He puts his hands in front of the camera, so and then she's like, oh, that's really sweet of you, and then like they start fighting again.
And then she immediately goes into a dick punch.
Can I just? Did anyone else watching this and from Colossus kind of get Obelix vibes?
Yeah, a little.
He's got a bit of Obelix about him. He's that bashful.
And that's another thing about the Deadpool series, which I think Deadpool 2 deserves its own stream.
We should do that.
Yeah. But is they do a good job of redeeming characters that got the short end of the stick in the main X-Men franchise. Because Colossus is very much like when is like the moral center of whatever X-Men team he's on, like without being a boring Boy Scout like a certain laser ride X-Men is.
I just still
don't like the Boy Scout.
Negasonic Teenage Warhead as well. Which which actually I think originally, if I remember, it was the name of a song by Monster Magnet. I think. It's got I know it's got a music reference to it. I think it was a song by Monster Magnet originally called Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Do you know what's just occurred to me? Why I like the jokes that poke fun at, the blind lady and the rape jokes and everything else. It pokes fun at everything. Nothing is sacred in this franchise.
Glad to see you in the chat at least, Sam.
Hey, Sam.
But this is kind of like, do you remember when we did Asterix Nobilis and they went just everywhere and everywhere got a bit of a giggle out of it? It's kind of like that, but there is literally nothing is sacred. Like it draws the lines for the audience and avoids certain things for the audience, but nothing is sacred. Like the cocaine joke, the heroin joke.
There's
kilos of cocaine in this one.
I actually want to pick up on something because you said about like this is a little joke that comes up a few times in Deadpool. You mentioned it with the whole thing with the fight with Colossus and Gina Carano's character. The cock punch.
Cock punch.
People have to. Anyone's familiar with Jean-Claude Van Damme films, I almost feel that's a little stab at Van Damme martial arts movies. Because how many times have you seen the Van Damme movie when someone attacks him and he goes into a full front splits and then like into their dick, gives them
fighting dirty,
and I just love and like every time with Deadpool in this, he's like cock punch,
breaks his hand, breaks his leg,
shot, Well, he does that on but he does that.
All dinosaurs feared the T-Rex.
But it's like a whole thing of he does that the whole a few times, and I think the French like cock shot, boom,
And again, this movie is not scared of its sex jokes. Like the little hand was, I think we all cringed at that, didn't we? That was. I do have. I advertised on Craigslist for a blind housemate. That just amuses me so much. What I want to know is how the hell did she get onto Craigslist to find that advert? So and what were the odds?
And I've actually got to say that whole thing with the blood. I'd say got possibly the best masturbation joke I've ever heard in history.
Yeah.
Comes out of this where he's had obviously sawn his hand off.
Yeah.
And Deadpool obviously has this amazing healing, but it obviously his limbs can grow back a little slow at times, and he's got this baby's hand. It's like it's gonna feel real big in this hands, like
she's just like, ew.
She's just like, okay, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's grossed out, and we're grossed out, and everyone's and I'm glad it avoided doing anything. I mean, that was close to the line, but I'm glad it didn't go any other way with that joke because it could have gone too far there. But the bit where he strokes her face with the baby hand, and it's just like, this is concerning.
Yeah,
but
and that's the thing in the comics, they had like a really like dysfunctional like.
Yeah, I can't decide whether they're dysfunctional siblings, whether she's a mother figure to him, a friend. It's really Freudian and fucked up.
Yeah, they had like a real like messed up like
dynamic
in the comics. Like, Deadpool would hide things from her. She would like.
Yeah, there's a bit of a prank war between them as well, isn't there?
Well, yeah, Deadpool's. I mean, I gotta say, even this goes back a few years before because I read some of the Deadpool comics, and I think one of the things is when I tried to explain Deadpool to someone, there was a fan film that's on YouTube, like it's just, and it's come up 2 years before the actual film, So it's just like a little YouTube fan film thing, and it's called Deadpool Pranks Spider-Man.
Yeah.
No, that's how you explain Deadpool.
This is the thing, if you want to explain Deadpool to someone who's never considered the character, and here's the thing: Deadpool breaks into Spider-Man's apartment, replaces his web fluid with silly string. Okay, and then is waiting for Spider-Man to like do the whole like, where is he? Come on, wait. Well, like what's he going? So Deadpool just pulls out the gun and shoots somebody at random, kills them. And he's like, so you hear the thing going, Spider-Man,
Black.
Bang, splat. And it's like, Deadpool's like, you got pranked. Oh, fuck. I got a dead body. I'm like
Deadpool he's the ultimate just prankster, isn't he?
It's a great little fact. But I'd actually say to people, that is, if no one's had any context to Deadpool, that is the character from the comics. That's the sort of thing Deadpool would do.
Yeah, I think as well with Deadpool, everyone's fair game. And what I like about the character is and I think what really makes the relationship with her work is he doesn't treat her any differently because she's blind.
Yeah.
Almost to the point it's jarring, like he expects her to build an IKEA bookshelf and she's blind, or
back in two, guys.
He expects certain things from her, and you're just like, why are you telling the blind, like, dude?
Yeah.
And it's there's none of this. He treats her like she's not blind at all. And it's like it even makes jokes out of it, and that's really refreshing in a character who's not awkward about disability.
Yeah.
Even his own, like when he's diagnosed with cancer and he's just like, I've got cancer in like all these major organs, all the things I can live without. Yeah. And he's just very, right from the start, he's just like, he never loses his sense of humor. And that's a massive plot point with this character, but it's also really, really nice. Like the guy's a bastard. He's an utter prick. But he helps young girls get rid of their stalkers, and he's, you kind of imagine him picking up a kitten out the middle of the road and putting it on the other side, and he quite clearly attracts like the outsiders. Like the barman's a bit he's nothing special.
Yeah. So
and
the barman is based off a character, from the comics. No, who in the comics is like a hacker and occasionally Deadpool's guy in the chair. His name is Weasel.
Yeah. So he's, Deadpool draws a certain kind of person to him, damaged people in their own way, even Vanessa to an extent.
Yeah.
We never find out Vanessa's true background, but she's clearly got some issues.
Yeah.
Not least the fact that her fella's way, way too obsessed with George Michael for... No, stop it. And it's... Even when this movie gets really angsty, which it does, even when this movie's angsty, there's still moments of humor in there.
Yeah, like in the montage in Department K when they're trying to, give him his superpowers.
And he steals Ajax's laundry tab.
Yeah.
Or, it almost places a bet on if he's gonna keep his sense of humor or not.
Yeah.
And that's exactly his sense of humor, to place a bet like that.
And the, the montage of all the different torture methods being set to Mr. Sandman.
Yeah. Mr. Sandman. And it's that bouncy. Yeah. It's just the whole movie is just a trip. It is
also
such a trip.
It's also one of the better origin movies I've seen. And because it doesn't do the straightforward, origin movie structure. We begin in media res with him, trying to get Francis on the bridge. And then
it goes,
then we get the backstory through flashbacks, and in the middle of the movie time wise is where we have the scene when he's fighting Ajax in the workshop as it's burning down, and we have the Phoenix-esque rebirth imagery.
Yeah. Born from the flames. I've got to say as well, I do love the twist of why they recruited him.
Yeah.
He thought he was going to be a hero.
Yeah.
And instead he's been recruited as what is essentially a slave.
Yeah.
And he's decided, he doesn't like this. It's a very interesting origin story, and
it's a very good tweak to the comic origin to fit in with what there is of an X-Men continuity universe.
Yeah, it does, because you can imagine someone doing something like that, especially in sort of the X-Men universe where First Class is a thing.
Yeah.
You can imagine a few years after First Class, Private Enterprise doing something like that.
And because in the comics, Deadpool, the workshop was actually under the Canadian government, and they were trying to basically make another Captain America.
Yeah, which makes sense. Or Captain Canada.
Yeah. But yeah, under it wasn't the same department that gave Wolverine his adamantium skeleton, but it was adjacent to it.
Yeah. And I mean, this again, there's so many complexities in this movie.
Yeah.
And it doesn't shy away from them, but it doesn't beat you around the head with them either.
Yeah.
Even the thing of the obligatory British villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, villain with a British accent.
paid for by asshats.
Yeah. The whole thing about this movie is it takes everything you come to expect from a movie and says, how can we twist this?
Yeah.
There's nothing in this movie that is played utterly straight. Not even like his relationship.
Yeah.
Like she carries his... I'm not going to...
Bernadette Peters coin bag.
Yeah. And, you know, none of it's played straight, and she's a stripper, and he's, you know, it's all very... satires do this a lot, and we've mentioned this before. Satires... The whole definition of satire is that it presents an ideal such that it implicitly makes fun of the reality.
Yeah.
That's what satire is. It shows you the difference between the ideal and the reality.
Yeah.
By playing it to extremes.
Well, and actually, in a way it does, you know, in the meta way it does, because of course it's meta, it's Deadpool. But in the meta way that it does, it actually does it within the movie itself, because you have the ideal of Colossus, you know, Colossus representing the superhero ideal. And then you've got Deadpool, you know, representing the reality where it's ugly and it's, you know, and there's trauma involved. And
and then you've got, you know, the foil of Deadpool, this openly, you know, sexually open, progressive male, and the other dudes in the bar. You've got Deadpool, who was just desperate and wanted a way to survive.
Yeah.
And heroes who are born to it and have all these high ideals.
Yeah. And you've got, you know, you've got Deadpool who's, you know, comfortable enough with his masculinity to openly, talk about, openly talk about how he likes Wham and carry a Bernadette Peters little purse.
Yeah, I mean, these are all
and you have Ajax who
changed his name from Francis.
Yeah, because Francis is too, effeminate.
And the thing is, as well, I think it's these are all Wham. I don't know about you, Scummer. I know where I'm from. If a dude likes Wham,
it seems
he listens to it with his boyfriend. It's a bit like ABBA. He's listening to it with his boyfriend.
There is that sort of
there were rumors for a long time about the two leads of Wham, the two of them.
Well,
there were rumors.
Well, there were rumors because obviously George Michael eventually did come out as.
George Michael did eventually come out.
It's amazing to think of it now because there was so many like in the 80s. George Michael was a heartthrob to so many teenage girls.
Yeah, and there's actually another movie that Ryan Reynolds is in that I want to make a reference to because he mentions George Michael. It's called Jersey Girl. It's a B-rate movie, but it's a fair movie about a dude and he's a publicist. And there's one line in the movie where he turns to the guy and he says, it's a great line that kind of highlights, I think, what people thought of George Michael before he came out, which was George Michael's a poser who's all about the ladies. Come on, I want your sex. Does that sound like he's singing to a guy?
Yeah.
And the joke there is, yes, the audience knows that he is because this is like a 2003 movie.
I mean, well, I'll give enough a music reference. I have a heavy metal reference, Judas Priest.
Yeah. Oh no, it's Ben Affleck in Jersey Girl. Sorry, not Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. Judas Priest, for example. If you ever see the way Rob Halford dresses, I mean, it's obvious now to think about it. The way he dressed on stage, that this was a this was a little bit of a gay stereotype, but with a slight BDSM kind of twist on it. But at the time, Rob Halford didn't come out for like years afterwards. But during the 80s, it was like, like there's a lot of young women wanted to bed Rob Halford at Judas Priest.
I will say as well,
and he literally got his the look of the band literally came from fetish shops that mainly catered to gay men.
Yeah,
that's where the look of that band
the
came
leather
from.
daddies and things like that. But I mean, it's the same thing. I remember having the conversation with my parents when I was a teenager of, are you seriously telling me you didn't know about Freddie Mercury?
Yeah.
And my dad was just like, no, we never. And like Frankie Howard, who's looking at Frankie Howard and thinks that dude's straight?
Yeah.
He's camping it up deliberately.
Okay, just quick detail. One of my favourite little Frankie Howard lines ever was this was not long before he died, actually, but it was this brilliant like stand-up show. And when somebody asked him, Frankie, would you ever consider having a sex change? And he looked at him and said, any sex would be a change.
Great line. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's Frankie Howard. I think eventually did come out, didn't he? I think he did.
Yeah, he came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
so we're not applying anything that they didn't apply to themselves. But you look at Frankie Howard in things in like the Carry On movies, and you just look and you think, how did they not know?
Well, because they're
like you look at Freddie Mercury and think, come on, how did you not know?
Yeah.
Because they were just, in a lot of ways, it's the stereotype, which
they became the stereotype.
It's not a true stereotype, but if you look at them now, it's like, okay, this is the absolute stereotype of a gay man that we have.
I mean,
which is
Freddie
not
Mercury,
accurate, but
no, it's not accurate. But Freddie Mercury, even the stories you hear about him, sneaking out in drag with Princess Diane stuff, it's just like, come on, no straight guys doing that.
I will say one thing on like the stereotypes things. I've only probably met maybe one or two men in my time that are somewhat the stereotype. And
I think I've met your share as well as mine. Then I've met a lot who are that stereotype.
But
and proudly so. They camp it up, and they they are who they are.
There's a lot of there's a couple of pub landlords where I live, who are a couple. One of them's a bit, I don't want to say the names, one of them's a bit more reserved. One of them is like, he plays up the stereotype to the point where I've seen him diffuse fights
with it.
Because he will say, because he watches these two guys like getting ready to like bow up and fight one another, and he would say, hey, knock it off. Says, either of you think you're real men, come upstairs to me.
So
fantastic.
And in a way,
if you think you're hard enough.
It's like, basically in the way he played up the campy stereotype. To
diffuse fights.
To the fact that to diffuse fights, either that the two guys fighting were going to laugh, or everybody in the pub who heard what the landlord said
got a good laugh.
Was going to laugh their asses off of it, and the two men ready to bar up and have a fight don't
have a leg to stand on anymore. It's like growing up. The only gay person I knew growing up was an older fella who owned a florist's. And the only time I ever heard stories about him or anything, my mum would go out drinking, and as groups of women do, end up in a gay bar, and he'd be there, and they drink together and they dance together and what have you. He very much played it up. I even saw him flirt with my dad a couple of times. Which, if you've ever met my dad, that's the brave man.
But I gotta say, for future reference, at some point we've got to do Pride as a episode.
Yes, we do.
We have to do that Pride as an episode of this at one time.
But anyway, not only is it, a commentary on the superhero movie and a commentary on the origin story movie, and while also being a good example of both, but it is also a commentary on the rom-com.
Yeah, beautifully done.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful satire. Again, it's a satire of a rom-com that's better than most rom-coms.
Yeah.
This movie, I think, for those reasons, it's a satire that's better than what it's ripping off. For me, it's up there with Princess Bride.
Yeah.
It's
which is kind of ironic, seeing as how the PG-13 release of Deadpool 2 has Deadpool kidnapping Frankie Howard.
No comment.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I enjoyed Deadpool 2. It was a lot of fun. But I enjoyed a lot of the trailers for Deadpool 2 more than I enjoyed the
I felt like by the
itself.
time I saw Deadpool 2, I'd seen everything that I wanted to see in the film.
Because it was like the Bob Ross thing when he's doing the art was quite fun. And then my favourite being the superhero trope thing with the Superman one. Yeah. He runs off into this phone booth and it's taking him like 5 minutes to get the costume off, whilst the actual crime is. So by the time he gets out of it, the crime's already committed. And then there's always the great thing when he gets out of that. Hey, little Stan Lee coming. Hey, nice costume. Zip it, Stanley.
Though that reminds me, in Deadpool we have possibly the greatest Stan Lee cameo.
The DJ.
The DJ, yeah.
Yeah, the DJ in the strip club.
Fantastic. That was utterly fantastic. I love it. There's that one. And which one is it where Stanley, I think it's in First Class where he plays, where Xavier and Magneto walk up to him and he tells them to do one.
No, that was Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, that was Hugh Jackman because
there's one where Stan Lee plays a veteran because he's wearing a veteran's cap.
He plays a veteran in He plays a veteran in Avengers 2, swapping war stories with Captain America.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And
he gets drunk on the Asgardian mead.
That's the one. Yeah. Because that's the same one where Skarsgård's character gets drunk and it's, we drank, we fought, he did his ancestors proud. Which is just a great line and I want that on a t-shirt.
But yeah, I mean, I like the fact that they could even have fun with the obligatory Stan Lee cameo. Which is something, obviously, going forward, unless they're going to CGI it in or something, which I don't think they should do. It's like it's going to be sort of a little thing that's going to be missed in the whole Marvel thing, isn't it? The obligatory Stan Lee cameo, which is even billed in the film as a shameless cameo.
Yeah. I mean, what I would really like to see in a future movie, possibly Deadpool saying it, or another character are there any other characters that break the fourth wall in sort of the Marvel universe?
She-Hulk, obviously.
But She-Hulk hasn't been done as a character, and I don't, since she's not really quite as well known for it, I don't think they'd really go that direction. I don't think
She-Hulk should hold a movie. She-Hulk maybe as a supporting character. Look, the Hulk himself, the actual character, the Hulk is better as a supporting character.
Actually, honestly, I'd like to see She-Hulk get her own show and just have her, follow her as a defense lawyer.
That could be fun.
Like Super Suits.
They could kind of like do it on Disney Plus as a series, and go like the kind of WandaVision route with it, I suppose.
But what I would like is something like that, like a character who can break the fourth wall, just passing a comment at some point near the end of one of the films, just saying something's been missing from this movie.
I just saw what Doug
Where's the old guy? I
just saw what Doug put in there.
Oh, he died
in the comments there. Dog, if you've not seen the Netflix Punisher, I suggest you go and watch it because that is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
The
Netflix Punisher is vetsploitation done right.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously he's introduced in season 2 of Daredevil, but when they give him his own and it's one of the biggest things I'm gutted about with the whole Disney Netflix thing falling apart is we don't get any more Daredevil or Punisher. And Luke Cage and Iron Fist I could take or leave. Similar thing to me with Jessica Jones, even though a lot of people liked Jessica Jones. But Daredevil and Punisher especially was done right. Because Punisher almost stood apart as being more grounded in reality as well.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked Daredevil. Of all of them, Daredevil's the one I rate. Punisher, I couldn't quite get into. Luke Cage, I found a bit. I know a lot of African Americans liked it because it was supposedly lampshading their experience, but to me, it felt a bit exploitative.
You probably have to remember the era the character Luke Cage.
Yeah, because he started out as a blaxploitation character.
It was a blaxploitation kind of character, like on the back of things like Shaft and whatever.
And that's why they, like, when comic sales started to slump, they slapped Luke Cage and Iron Fist together and actually made a hit book with it.
Yeah.
Because, both Luke Cage and Iron Fist were writing their own, movie trends.
Yeah.
Luke Cage was writing the blaxploitation, and Iron Fist was writing the kung fu flick trend.
Anyway, this is why Deadpool itself almost became a hit, because there was like a series, and it was a dying series in the Deadpool one. Was as a character was dying that they tried to do a series, and it was almost because they gave it to the writers and just more or less said,
have fun with it.
Have fucking fun with this, because this thing's going to die before long anyway. Basically, just go and mentally masturbate all you fucking want writing this book, because nobody's buying it, nobody gives a shit. And then all of a sudden, they had a hit on their hands,
And the thing is, you'd think people would learn from that, because every time you give the writers control, things go well. So why don't they give writers control more often? It's one of those, isn't it? But I think...
I will admit that you can't do that with every... Now, obviously, Deadpool's an outlier. You can't do that with every character, what they've done with Deadpool. Otherwise, it becomes too much of a bloody joke. But why I think Deadpool's great as a character, and especially a lot of the times when he's brought in outside of his own series, and he's mixed with more established Marvel characters. There's a great few panels in a Daredevil. I think in a Daredevil story that I remember that where they're fighting a load of villains or whatever, and Deadpool's just not taking it serious, and Daredevil was like to Deadpool, will you take this thing? Will you take our situation fucking seriously? And Deadpool's response is, I use humor to hide my insecurities, but I'm also funny as fuck, so don't hate on me.
Yeah.
Or
when Hawkeye in the comics is canonically deaf.
Yeah.
When Deadpool's in the same comic with Hawkeye, he'll use sign language.
Yeah. Ooh. And he's an interesting character in that way.
Yeah.
I will say, coming to Deadpool as someone who really was not grounded in the Marvel universe, other than seeing a few Marvel cinematic things or anything like that, I really wasn't grounded in comics at all. I always assumed that Deadpool was a satire of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
probably just because of the look.
Yeah, probably the similar suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's understandable. And like I said earlier in the film, you had before this movie, you'd had other parodies and send-ups of the superhero genre. Like Mystery Men's a good example. Back in 1999, which was a send-up of superhero. And then you had the superhero, which was part of the Scary Movie thing, which was a pretty much a knock on both Batman and Spider-Man. But none of them, I don't think any of them have really caught this as well as Deadpool.
Well, and another thing is, I think Deadpool came out of the perfect franchise for a parody satire,
which is X-Men.
Yeah, because the X-Men cinematic franchise, it was very much like doing X-Men without doing X-Men, because they shied away from the the only time they would mention like the comic book esqueness of it is like to poke fun at it, like when Wolverine is like, what we're wearing these outfits, and Cyclops is like, well, what would you like, yellow spandex?
So there's the odd little joke put in there, but in the super, but not. Yeah, there was always the odd little joke put in, but not like to the point where you making the whole movie a satire.
Yeah, basically, the original X-Men cinematic franchise was basically just trying to make like a sci-fi action flick with the X-Men.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll say one of my favorite lines in the movie Deadpool is like, when Colossus is saying, "Wade, we're taking you to see the professor," and his line is, "McAvoy or Stewart." These timelines are getting really confusing. I thought that was fantastic.
Something I want to talk about in this movie that we haven't touched on at all. The special effects.
Yeah.
Special effects in this movie are shit hot. Yeah. They are fantastic. They are like, you've got the in-camera slow-mo and freezes and movement going on. You've also got the pure CGI of that final scene with the land turning, and it's just it's brilliant and it's seamless.
Yeah.
And it stands up. This movie's like 5 years old and it's still standing up.
Well, because, they couldn't throw money at it because they were on a shoestring budget, so they made up for it with good writing and technique.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can see the skill in the camera people and the techniques they used. When they used the CGI, they used it just enough to make the point. They didn't overblow it.
And actually, I'm going to say something. In some ways, Fox slashing the budget made Deadpool a better movie.
It did, because it forced them to think creatively. And I think that's the difference you see with Deadpool 2. Like, Deadpool 2 it's an all right movie, but compared to Deadpool 1, it's not a touch. Because in Deadpool 2, they had more of a budget because they'd already proven themselves.
Well, they'd already knew or at least they had an idea there was going to be a sequel when they did Deadpool, because obviously
they knew they had the audience.
I want to get I do want to touch on the post-credit scene at some point in this movie, but maybe not now, but maybe we can do it in a bit.
But so the final showdown when Francis has Vanessa and Deadpool shows up to rescue her, it was supposed to be a massive firefight. But Fox slashed their budget again at the last minute, and they didn't have the money to do that. So we had Wade forgetting all the guns in the cab.
Yeah. That was hilarious. I mean, which I thought was hilarious.
It's a perfect way of doing it. Absolutely fantastic. And again, it shows that creativity, and we got to see the actors actually act instead of relying on bang, bang, shoot them up.
Yeah.
Set pieces. And that's not to say this doesn't have set pieces, but the set pieces it has are unique because of that lack of funding. And
of course, I'm wondering if it was like a big bang bang firefight. I'm not sure we would have gotten the cameo from one of my favorite supporting Marvel characters. Hydra Bob.
Yeah.
So of
Well,
course
I will
he's
say
not.
as well-
He can't be Hydra Bob because Hydra belongs to Marvel and not Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have
But-
said as well, I would have had serious concerns about having a teenager in the middle of an all-out kick-out gunfight.
Though
Oh,
I'm
Johnny,
guessing
sorry, Johnny, I'm liking the Mortal Kombat reference you just put in the chat, by the way.
Yeah.
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 Actually,
I'll write it out for you.
And the thing is,
I want to comment on something Dog said a little earlier in the show about Tony Stark was meant to be a breakaway character, but Deadpool created a whole new level. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Iron Man in a way was Iron Man was a little bit of a take on the times of in the 60s were being a bit more progressive. Yeah. That somehow we're going to take this billionaire character, character who's a billionaire who sells arms for a living,
and
somehow
make him likable.
Billionaire playboy philanthropist.
Yeah, and somehow they did that to their credit, and it was very. I mean, Tony Stark as a character, Iron Man is actually very loosely based on Howard Hughes.
I can see that.
Yeah, he by Stan Lee's own admission, Howard Hughes is one of his go-tos, like for that.
So that very, sometime soon I want to do a stream on Iron Man, like comparing how Iron Man in the comics, came out of the Vietnam era, and was touched on by that, while Iron Man in the movies comes out of the, is a reaction to the GWAT.
The war on terror sort of thing. Yeah,
I do think that the whole thing about Iron Man to me is he is the personification of the arms race he's released into.
Yeah.
In the comics, he's comes out of the Vietnam era, and but that's why he comes out. He comes out again when the audience needs an everyday hero who has the technology.
Yeah.
The technological arms race that Iron Man personifies, in much the same way that Captain America is the propaganda arms race.
Yeah.
Iron Man is the technology arms race.
Both is good.
Mm-hmm.
So Iron Man. Sorry, what's that question again?
Spoiled ass or superhero
or spoiled ass with a lot of money and toys. Both.
I'm gonna say I think Batman's more of an arsehole. And he's a spoiled billionaire. So.
Yeah. The thing is with Tony is what makes him likable is he shares his toys.
Yeah. But since you brought up Batman, I'm going to say something. So for the most part, I'm all right with rewriting character, when you're adapting them into a different medium, rewriting that, especially in a modern day with an older character, rewriting them as a different race. However, with Batman, I don't think that's a good idea.
Give me a second, Ring. I've got a rewritten Batman comic somewhere down here.
Why is this suddenly an issue? Have I missed something in the news? Or?
No, it's something that occasionally pops up. Race bending, gender bending, etc. You have the comics fanboys.
I would have serious issues with a black Batman.
Yeah, same. Yeah, that's why. I have a very problematic.
I have a comic of a black Batman somewhere here.
Oh yeah, the what if Stan Lee wrote Batman?
Yes, that's the one.
Where is Batman to me is daddy's little rich boy throwing a temper tantrum.
Yeah.
And putting a black guy in that role especially in an American context.
Yeah. Like the only way I could see it working is if you went the Adam West route.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were gonna make Batman not white,
Yeah.
my instinct to a modern audience would be to make him some kind of Arab prince or something like that, because he's got that then privileged background.
Yeah.
He's got to retain his privileged background raised by the butler. Because that's an important part of Batman's character, because he's a spoiled brat.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Superman, I could see Superman done as any race.
I mean, Superman was, let's be honest, the alien coming to America, that is a allegory of the race.
Yeah.
And
there we
for
go.
immigration.
Stan Lee's Batman.
Yeah. Hold on.
Which is a complete, I've got to say, is a complete reimagining of the character and its origins. So
this is what I mean.
There's a total different backstory to Batman.
Yeah. You cannot write a non-white Batman without utterly just eviscerating the backstory.
Oh yeah, they do. This is the thing. The origin story is, it's got elements of the original, but is a different story altogether.
I mean, the only way I see a black Batman is if he's some kind of character like Carlton from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I just don't see that guy being a Batman-esque character.
The Nerditarium.
Yeah. Nerditarium. Yeah, but if you're going to do a black Batman, it'd have to be someone like Carlton from the Fresh Prince. Carlton is not got what it is to be a comic book hero.
But in that Just Imagine series, Batman's not imagined as a spoiled, rich.
He's like a boxer from the inner city or something.
He becomes a wrestler after he's been to jail, and makes a fortune as a professional wrestler at the Batman, and then uses that as a superhero. So
that plot works.
Yeah.
But this is what I mean by you can't have a black Batman.
Yeah,
that's which is a Stan Lee trope. They become a professional wrestler before they become a superhero.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. I think as well with because you were talking about Superman.
Yeah.
I can see a black Superman. I can see a European, Arab, Chinese, Indian Superman. I can see all of those.
Nildal, have you read Superman Red Sun?
I haven't, no.
We need to do an episode on Red Sun. It is the best Superman story ever told.
It's I'll give you a little premise of it. What if Superman had landed when he landed on Earth, had landed in the Soviet Union and not America?
Yeah, had landed in the Ukraine during the reign of Stalin.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You'll love it. You'll love Red Sun.
Red Sun. There's a movie of it.
Yeah.
There's an animated movie of it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an animated movie of it. I haven't seen it, but
no, I mean the
DC animated adaptations usually tend to be pretty good.
Okay, that's going on my wish list. Because I'm just looking at it here, Superman Red Sun. Although the way they've written that with the pseudo Russian lettering, it's Yedson. Which always irritates me. Please stop putting Cyrillic letters into English words. It doesn't make sense. It confuses my brain because I can actually read Russian.
It's the only fools and horses trope, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't speak Russian. You just put the R's backwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, you know what? I'd love. I mean, I would say they got him kind of close in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but I would love to see Gambit done justice.
Yeah. Gambit, I think Gambit. Someone I think they could have done more with.
Yeah.
It was just because Gambit is not on. To be honest, Gambit is not on screen long enough, really.
Yeah. Also, Gambit, I think Gambit is one of those characters that is so closely tied to their ethnic background that you can't really separate them.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
you got. I think the reason why they could have done more with Gambit was, especially off the back of the era where and I grew up in this era in the 1990s where the X-Men cartoon
Animated series,
which is
Yeah.
I will still say now holds up really well.
Yeah, definitely.
Gambit was a big part of that. Gambit was a big part, and then because I know a lot of people were disappointed when they did the X-Men movie.
Okay.
Where the fuck's Gambit?
I have just found Superman Red Sun, the new edition, on Kindle.
Oh,
there we go.
For a not unreasonable price. Even the paperback's not that unreasonable. The actually trying to get hold of the original Red Sun is prohibitively expensive for a comic book. I'm sorry, I'm not paying £50 for a comic book.
No.
There are various versions in French or Turkish.
Yeah.
But that version, Red Sun TP New Edition.
Yeah.
Volume collects Superman Red Sun 1 to 3 in one volume.
I was just thinking we've gone well off Deadpool here, haven't we?
Yeah, we kind of have.
We've just gone into a general comic books thing here.
But yeah, I'm gonna have a look at this.
Yeah.
That's going on my wish list too.
Well, I mean, because as a satirical parody, Deadpool is essentially a commentary on the medium.
Yes, absolutely, it is.
It is.
At its core, that is what Deadpool is.
Yeah.
I mean, the beauty of Deadpool is as well, I came to comic books kind of through Deadpool. I was not a big comic person before. So to me, seeing Deadpool as kind of, I've seen the satire before. I've seen one satirizing.
This is a more recent one. This is a more recent one, but Deadpool Unleashed. But
yeah, to me, it's I think I'm kind of glad I've come at it this way because I've seen the satire of it, and it's comic books 101. What tropes to look for in comic books? If you've seen Deadpool, you know what tropes to look for.
Yeah. Probably a little full screen for a second. I don't know if people could see this.
Hold on. There we go.
Duckpool here.
Duckpool. I need Duckpool in my life. Quack quack.
Yeah. But there's even a thing in this little one, which is the very first book page of this one, is a favourite little trope of Deadpool comics of him playing with action figures of himself.
Fantastic. It's always fun when that happens.
And then there's the thing with like Negasonic. He's got an action. It's like there isn't a action figure of Negasonic Teenage Warhead, so he's playing with one of those troll dolls with the big hair from the 80s.
I had one of those as a pencil tipper. I had multiple of those as pencil tippers. Everyone had those.
This is the lowest I've ever been, and then flash to the action figure of Barakapool. Okay, maybe not that low.
Yeah, but it's Deadpool for me is a great introduction to comic books as a medium, or to the comic book franchises.
Yeah.
And the cinematic universes of them, because it's got all the tropes, and it is like sitting in a 101 class of this is what to look for in comic books.
Yeah,
it is absolutely.
And it manages to make some of the darkest, horrible stories really funny.
Yeah.
It's proper gallows humor. It really is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember, watching Daredevil. Now, I liked Daredevil because it got the Catholicism right.
Yeah.
You know, there were none of this, you know.
Not the TV series.
Actually, it was the TV series.
I was going to say.
It got the Catholicism right. Like, you know, he actually did go into it was an actual Catholic church he went into, not a Christian one. And you could tell because a giant ass crucifix on the wall. You know, he actually crossed himself. Like, these are things that some movies kind of, they try, it's like Catholics written by a non-Catholic, and it really irritates me when they try and do it.
I was just saying, Daredevil originally was not written as a Catholic. That was a Frank Miller thing when they made him a Catholic.
Like, okay.
I mean, it makes sense if he's raised in an orphanage that it's going to be a Catholic orphanage.
Yeah.
I think Frank Miller said something along the lines, only a Catholic could be a vigilante and a lawyer at the same time.
Yeah. So have you
point.
So you've seen X-Men 2, right?
Probably.
So would you say Nightcrawler is an example of a Catholic written by a non-Catholic in X2?
Noodle's better to answer this question than me.
Nightcrawler?
Nightcrawler,
the one who becomes the Beast?
No. Nightcrawler's the blue one that teleports around, looks kind of like a demon.
But he's very religious at the same time.
Yeah.
But he is Roman Catholic.
I'm talking.
I can't say I've noticed enough about the character to comment on it.
Yeah, he didn't really do much in X2, which is kind of, kind of a shame because he's one of my favorite X-Men.
Yeah, and which is a shame because at the same time in X2, it's like he was also somewhat central to the plot, when it was like got to it, because there was the great line by Magneto at Wolverine, and like, once again, you think this is all about you,
Yeah.
I think with, I mean, what really annoys me, I read a book recently, I'm not going to name it because it's not fair to do that. I read a book recently where it was, apparently this guy went to a little Irish village in the middle of nowhere and the priest was wearing gold for a funeral. And I just, and or just little things like that.
But it
really irritated me. Like, if you're gonna write a character, at least have the decency to Google the damn thing.
Yeah, like in regards to Nightcrawler in the comics, think if Daredevil had a sense of humor.
Yeah. Daredevil does have a sense of humor. It's just a weird one. I find a lot of the humor in there. I do find humor in
Kelsey Grammer played Beast in the X-Men.
In X-Men 3, which wasn't that good.
Yeah, which is probably one of the, with the possible exception of the Origins thing.
Can I address something in the chat?
Yeah.
Brainbug. I don't know Nightcrawler. I don't know comic books very well.
Yeah.
I have to understand that I grew up in an area in the 90s where girls didn't read comic books. It was a very gendered thing of girls don't read comic books, and particularly because I was kind of one of the high achieving students, it was always put as, if I'd have been caught reading a comic book, it'd have been, what are you reading that for? That's for the thick kids.
Yeah.
That's not for you. I couldn't read. I was reading Goosebumps at 5 and 6 years old and had surpassed that reading level by the time I was 8. I was not allowed to read these things. It wasn't done.
Hence why
I'm sad now. I'm sad.
No.
No.
Didn't.
Oh.
I'm not up on the. I've got to be honest, because I haven't bought many comics. I haven't bought any comics in a while now.
Yeah. So okay, I'm gonna say I'm gonna have a Badger moment here.
That's non-canon.
That's not canon.
That's the Disney is non-canon.
Disney is not canon.
Yeah.
It might be like the Captain America Hydra thing, though.
Yeah. I don't know, because I can see them doing that, seeing as how Catholic he is. But Disney is not canon.
Fair. But yeah, no, I just, you know, I play catch up. I follow Ring into comic books.
Let's put it this way, just so anyone who's unsure about Noodle with comic books. It's little under a year ago now. I actually got Noodle into a comic book series that we do a series on every week.
Yeah.
That Noodle was unfamiliar with.
Literally before we started that series, I had never so much as picked up an Asterix comic book.
Yeah.
I'd seen bits of it on TV, like the TV adaptation. And that was where my interest came from, not from the comic books. I'd never...
Yeah.
The idea of me as a child, I can't... Let me put it this way. When I was reading Anne Frank at 8 years old. And that was considered the level I was reading at. I was not allowed to go back and read things, you know. By the time I was 8 years old, I was looking at the boys reading Captain Underpants and thinking, well, that's childish. Or people reading Goose, well, that's childish. That's not.
Yeah.
And that's what I was being told. Because I was such an advanced reader and I picked things up so quickly, I kind of didn't have a literary childhood as such. I missed a lot of the childish stuff. I didn't even read like the Enid Blytons and stuff because they were just too childish.
But it'd be like the joke in It Ain't Half Hot Mum of the Sergeant Major who's not very literally up on stuff and looking at the books his soldiers have got. Useless by James Joyce. Yeah.
You know, it was just very weird because a lot of things that most people are into, I skipped completely. I went from kind of watching the Teletubbies and Tux TV to like I said, reading Anne Frank and watching Bruce Lee with my dad. That's the kind of jump we're talking about. I missed huge swathes of media that was aimed at my age group because I was just considered so advanced for it. No one bothered to introduce me to it. And I never had the opportunity to go back until now. And
it is, you know, it is like a downside of having an entire medium, an entire genre labeled as just kids stuff.
Or for boys, yeah. And I think as well, as much as it was the zeitgeist of an era, Ring, get ready with your hashtag.
Yeah.
As much as it was the zeitgeist of an era, it didn't do me any favors that I came up right as Harry Potter exploded.
Yeah.
Because suddenly, you know, I was the kid who, before Harry Potter even came out, I'd read my entire school library. I'd read books on the Egyptians. I'd read it all. And then Harry Potter came out. Yeah, but once Harry Potter came out, there were no other books available.
This is what we talked about, obviously, when we talked about, because we covered comics in the past on here before on the show. And
when we did our not so brief history of the medium.
And which I encourage anyone to go back and have a look at.
But have snacks, it's 3 hours long.
Yeah, it's a long old stream. I will say that, but it is sort of trope that comics were supposed to be kids stuff. You know, this was young boys under the age of 10 and very stupid adults.
But
and there were comics that as well. Comics that catered to girls at the age under 10, like, you know, but when if I look back at a lot of the stuff in my childhood, some of the let's just say things like the Victor comics or whatever, kind of were catered to that age a little bit. Yet there was stuff that was also coming out like 2000 AD, which was not. And bear in mind, I came with British comics, which 2000 AD, where they did things like Charlie's War and whatever, and obviously Judge Dredd.
Though I will say,
I will.
You know, in my opinion, the two finest, movies to come out, of the superhero, comic genre are both rated R.
Yeah. But I think
Deadpool, for the fun, comedic, dark satire that it is, and then Logan.
I think what I'm getting at is,
I would say if I'm gonna have a top,
Noodle's been trying to talk.
Sorry, Noodle.
What I will say is, though, it's like, to give you an idea of what I mean, if you were buying a gift for a child, the same age group of girls that you're buying Polly Pocket for or a baby doll, you're buying a boy a comic book.
Yeah.
That was the attitude. So once they're 6, 7 years old, they're too old for that. That was literally, I remember my year 6 classroom, which is 11-year-olds. I remember a boy had a comic book and was bullied mercilessly for reading comics.
Yeah.
This is what we're taught, because, oh, you stupid, why don't you go sit with the year ones if that's what you're reading? He was bullied mercilessly for it.
Yeah.
And it's, at that point I was reading, there were kids in my year 6 class, and I didn't go to a posh school. I went to actually quite a low achieving school. Kids in my year 6 class reading Lord of the Rings at 11 years old. And that was normal. I never got into Lord of the Rings, but, reading on that level. And that's where we were at. So it's to then say to those same kids, well, last week you read this classic piece of literature by, Dickens or Bronte or something. This week we're going to give you a comic book. Would have looked at you and gone, hang on, what?
Oh.
It didn't compute.
Yeah, I just saw what Brainbugs just put in the chat there, because that's a good thing that came into my story with comics, of how I kind of should we say I got to the whole things because I went for the British comics. So obviously it was there were a few that, like Marvel and DC things in the UK, but they were mainly like but you had the Spider-Man, but mainly a lot of it was at the time was Marvel prints of Marvel had done agreed to do comic series of for toy companies, like Transformers comics were a big thing at the time when I was growing up. But the other thing was the British comics, which I suppose the boys was kind of like stuff like the Victor and the Roy of the Rovers comics, which was mainly sports kind of comics of with occasional war story. But then you also, at the same time, you had 2000 AD and that. But I grew up at comics, and then in the mid-90s, I was introduced to this, and Brainbug brought this in the chat.
Yeah.
Spawn.
Mm.
And so I've got several of the compilations here. 1, 2, 3, 4 that I just picked out now of Spawn stories, which was my way back as a teenager. That was my way back into comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, before I met Ring, my idea of what comic books were the Beano and Garfield They were the dailies in the paper.
Yeah.
And the Beano. That's what a comic book was to me. It was not serious reading.
Yeah.
And if you've ever read the Beano and seen the kid, I can see him in the stripy jumper, the red and black stripy jumper with his little black dog.
Tintin?
Dennis the Menace.
The Menace and Gnasher.
Yeah. Dennis the Menace and Gnasher. That was adapted into a children's animated show that was aimed at like 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
Can I just point out as well that that's the British Dennis the Menace, not the American
okay.
Dennis the Menace. Okay, that was a totally different character.
Yeah, but that's Dennis the Menace here. You know, it was fart jokes and smelly socks jokes. There was one joke I remember in one comic particularly where his mother went into his bedroom, took out his socks, and the smell was so bad the army showed up and took his socks to turn them into a weapon. That's the level we're talking. You know, it's not.
And we also had the superhero in those comics, those British kids comics at the time that came up that would later go on to define Ray Comfort. Banana Man.
Yeah. Banana Man.
But I mean, you can't really discuss like Deadpool, you know, given how closely the movie's tied with the X-Men franchise, given how meta it is, given how it's a parody satire of a genre, of an entire medium. You can't talk about Deadpool without bringing comics into it.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
But this is the thing where this is what I meant by it's a great jumping off point, because from Deadpool you can go into all these other things and it's a 101. It's, you know.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm actually quite glad I came to comics through Deadpool rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
Because it was a bit of a throw me in at the deep end and watch me swim kind of moment. Because I will admit it, I was a little bit skeptical about Deadpool before we went to see it.
Yeah.
I was skeptical. I was like, okay, this looks like it could be fun, but we're going to see this for Ring because we even said, didn't we? Because I like my romantic historical movies. Ring likes comic book stuff, so we were like, we'll do the double. We'll do Deadpool for you and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies for me.
Yeah.
And then we joked afterwards. I preferred Deadpool, and you enjoyed Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I had read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies beforehand.
Yeah. You know, so it was kind of that of, what am I getting myself into here?
Yeah.
But yeah, it just brilliant introduction to the genre, I think. And I just, I do like as well that I like the darker heroes or the anti-heroes.
Yeah.
Definitely more into DC than Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I first got into it all, and you were saying to me which stories, and I started, and you were like, "Yeah, you're a DC. You're more DC than Marvel. You prefer your darker, edgier stories." I like my Daredevils, my Deadpools, my I like even Tony Stark to an extent. I like characters who got enough brains to be able to pass a sarcastic comment and it not be out of character.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. Because, so, in regards to movies, DC tries to go for, the darker, edgier tone. But in the comics, Marvel made their reputation. Marvel rose to, become DC's rival by writing flawed human characters.
But, yeah, it's one of those where I'm just like, for me, characters like Thor.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, Chris Hemsworth. No, is it Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth.
Thor, great acting, love the character in the movies, but he's a bit flat.
Yeah.
Until Avengers Endgame, there's nothing there for me. He's just this. He's a stereotype. He's a cardboard cutout of a hero. There's nothing to grab me. There's nothing that makes him human. But then I see him and he's traumatized and he's been through hell and back and he's lost his brother. This is a character I can get with.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, until then, Loki was my go-to character. Like, I like that dude.
Yeah.
He's got a sense of humor. He can snack. I liked Black Widow because, again, she could snack. She was there. You know, those were Tony, again, had that sense of humor. Those are the characters I like.
Yeah.
So Deadpool, right up my alley. Whereas you look at Thor, Captain America, even Bruce Banner to some extent, they're a little bit too clean cut, a little bit too boy next door.
Yeah.
I say, having married the, but they're kind of, they're a bit, Superman. They're a bit. There's not a lot really going on that I can sink my teeth into and identify with. And this is why the anti-hero will always be on the edges of what's considered normal in any given context it's released into. And this is just literary theory. This is not unique to comic books, where the anti-hero will always have something that sets them apart from the norm. If normality is a bell curve, the anti-heroes are on the edges.
Yeah.
There's something about them that makes them different from your clean-cut ideal. That's the literal definition of an anti-hero. And I like my anti-heroes. Now, is that because I personally am not in the middle of any median curve you want to draw on anything to do with race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, anything? I'm always kind of on the edges. Maybe that's what I identify with. But those are the characters I like. And with Deadpool, I like the fact that they take all the tropes of the ideal, ex-special forces, but doesn't actually have the honor of a soldier. Like dishonorable discharge. That's that tells you something about the character straight away. It's got a problem with authority. You've got, and there are certain things they do with Deadpool that immediately tells you, wait, he's just a regular guy. I mean, for me, my ideal comic book character is someone like John Wick.
Yeah.
There's no superhero thing. He just gets by on his own strength, his own brains, his own brawn. And you can look at his world and go, that's fucked up. And that character is fun to play with.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about, isn't there a comic book series where normal people get stuck in the middle of all the superhero stuff?
Astro City. It's it's literally just a comic book series about your average people who live in a city that has superheroes.
Yeah, to me that sounds fantastic.
Oh, so my internet cut out for a moment there.
Yeah, like for instance, the Tarnished Angel trade centers around, an ex-con who used to be, who used to be super powered muscle, and he's trying to make his life, he's trying to go straight after going, getting out of jail.
Mm-hmm. And to me, that's that's the kind of story I'm interested in. Real people.
Yeah.
And that's my taste in literature as well.
Yeah.
In novels and things like that. I like real stories about real people. I don't like idealized versions of people. Yeah. Even, Harry Potter nerd. It's a famous joke amongst the Harry Potter fandom that no one's favorite character is Harry.
Yeah.
Because he's this paragon of virtue, but he's irritating.
Yeah.
He's so good, he's annoying about it.
I mean, you can have paragon characters.
Why Superman's annoying to a lot of comic book fans.
Yeah. He's just an irritant.
Or why, Captain America is annoying to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although they did do stuff with Captain America, which made it more relatable, and later on, but
and of course, though I will say there is one Paragon character that is done well.
Yeah.
In a superhero movie, and it is actually in Deadpool. Once again, we're talking about Colossus.
Mm.
Mm.
And I mean, yeah, it's taking the piss out of the Boy Scout archetype, but it's doing it with heart. It's doing it with.
I loved the I'm gonna say the whole speech he's giving to Wade.
Oh yeah, 4 or 5 moments.
Yeah, like with the whole when he's like, am I going to kill Francis or not? Ajax or not? And it's like, and he gives a long speech, and like eventually Deadpool's like, "You're boring the fuck out of me," kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was a good speech.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself. It was a very American speech, was what it was.
Yeah.
It was, but it was just he's giving the ideal of what the American ideal of what a hero is.
It is though, isn't it? Like in American movies, you always get that one JFK character who stands up and makes a speech, and you just please blow his brains out or blow mine out. Please,
and also Deadpool's like, bang, I'm not a fucking hero,
But, yeah, it's basically, well, it's also, the thesis of the movie is you don't have to be a good person to be a hero. You don't have to be the goody two shoes Boy Scout, never does anything wrong to be a hero. You just have to do the right thing at the right time. And and it's just in the, in those 4 or 5 moments.
Yeah.
That's where where you'll stand or fall.
Yeah. And that's it. But there's a truth to it, but kind of the swelling music and everything.
But of course, it gets immediately subverted because this is a Deadpool movie.
Yeah, dude, shut up. Yeah, and that's it. And we are all Deadpool in that moment of, dude, please shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what real life is.
And can I say, as I know we are obviously getting somewhat probably towards the end of this.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the post-credit scene?
Yes.
Deadpool. Who knows which movie that's parodying?
To be fair, I only knew it because I had read it somewhere, but it's Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
There's a post-credit scene in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, sort of like, it's over.
Shoot.
Go home. Shoot. Go home. Yes. You still here? Go away.
But
and then because Ferris Bueller's the last bit of music is that dum dum. Oh yeah.
That's definitely
yeah. And you get the whole thing of Deadpool's like, it's over, go home. Then he goes, oh, by the way, I can tell you certain things about next week. We're gonna have cable,
and
so we haven't quite figured out who we're gonna have yet, but maybe Keira Knightley. She's got range.
But also,
and then he just pops his head out and goes, chicka.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, that's taking the piss out of the MCU because the MCU has its fans trained to sit through the credits.
Yeah.
Ever since people found out they missed, the reveal at the end of Iron Man.
Yeah, or was it the Incredible Hulk when they first really started the whole they put Iron Man in at the end of it or whatever. And then
the first Marvel in credit scene was Nick Fury at the end of Iron Man.
Yeah.
But people didn't know that in credit scenes were a thing, and then Marvel's done like basically building its cinematic universe through Easter eggs and in credit scenes.
Yeah.
And so Deadpool knows, the people who wrote Deadpool know that people who watch superhero movies are expecting an end credit scene. So they
I mean, for me, I have to say the best end credit scene is, I don't know which Marvel one it's in one of the Avengers, where they're all in the cafe and the place is a wreck and they just sat around.
Yeah, that's the end of the first Avengers movie.
Yeah. To me, that's other than Deadpool, that's the best end credit scene.
Yeah.
Because it really shows, it gives you a moment to appreciate. Wow,
I think there's a few favorites. I got that one's good. End of Infinity War is good with the Captain Marvel tease.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't expecting much of Captain Marvel. That turns out to be a really fun movie.
Yeah.
And I'd say the one I can't remember what was the one where Thor was teased. Was it one of the Iron? I can't remember which one it was.
I think it was Iron Man 2.
Yeah, when you find they're in and they found this thing in it, and it's just the hammer.
Yeah.
And that's just enough of that's the only tease you need.
Yeah.
Hey, we know what's coming next.
You'll know, yeah.
But I just love the way Deadpool subverts that.
Yeah.
And the fact he did the whole Ferris Bueller parody at the end was fantastic.
And again, that's one for the older members of the audience as well.
Yeah.
Because that's not Ferris Bueller. I would be hesitant to say anyone my age or younger would even know about it.
That could be an episode of Media Musings Ring. I'd just say Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I'll have to see it first. I haven't actually seen Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, there's again.
Yeah.
There's so many things, potential future episodes here. I'd say the origin of the teen comedy genre is Ferris Bueller.
Then we've got to do Risky Business.
Yeah.
Because I think Tom Cruise dined out on that movie way too long.
And I'd like to do Shazam sometime.
Oh, I've watched that. Fantastic film.
That may have been the last film I saw in theaters.
Yeah.
Before the dark times.
Yeah, I think the last one I watched was Endgame, Avengers Endgame, actually.
Yeah, I can't remember. Oh yeah, actually, yeah. I think I missed Endgame in theaters.
No, you didn't. You went to see it.
Actually, no. Hold on. Tell a lie. What was this last Spider-Man film to be released?
Far From Home.
Yeah, that was the last film I ever saw in cinema before all the lockdown stuff happened. So
I genuinely don't think I've been to the cinema since you and I went, Ring. No, I went to see the last Fast and Furious movie.
Sorry, it's just no rings. Okay.
Rings just does not compute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't. The last time I went to the cinema was Ring with you.
Yeah.
Or maybe when I went to see Paddington 2.
You watched
because
Paddington
I just needed
1?
it. Yeah, I went to the cinema for that too.
Yeah.
That was I can tell you off the top of my head, Paddington 1, I went to see on Boxing Day 2014. I remember because it was I remember 2014.
Okay.
That was the year my mum passed away.
I will tell
and Boxing
you.
Day, I just couldn't take it, and I just went out, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'll find
I
something to do."
can tell you. Right, it's probably one of the worst films I ever went to see in the cinema. Was Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes.
Tim Burton's, that's the original one, isn't it?
No. Tim Burton's is the abomination that does not belong in the Planet of the Apes series.
I don't think I've seen it.
It came out in like the late 90s, early 2000s.
I can tell you the exact date I went to see it. September the 11th, 2001.
Yeah. We all remember what we did on that day.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, this looks like a good movie. But I went and watched it. I thought, this is shit. And I went to the pub afterwards, and it's like, hey, you heard what's going on in New York? I'm like, no, what the fuck? And then someone had a TV on watch. It's like,
holy shit.
You know, like, what the fuck is going on here?
So I think we're gonna close with our biggest cinema regrets then.
What we've been to see in, like...
Yeah. Okay, here's my biggest cinematic regret. I could have gone to see Iron Man. I saw Prince Caspian instead.
Oh, that's a bad one. That's a bad one.
For the quality of the movie only. Because I don't regret going, because I went with my mum. And it was the last movie, the only movie we went to see together ever. But the remake of Fame, with that Sam Smith song, Black and Gold, all over it. That one was, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's an all right song, but when you've heard it 6 times in 2 hours, you've had enough of it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a touch on the original Fame. For what it was, and I was really annoyed, and my mum was really annoyed as well, because we went to see the whole movie, and then you didn't actually get the song Fame. It was just played over the end credits, and that was just wow. That was bad. Also, Step Up. I remember going to see Step Up 2 at the cinema one year, and that was bad.
I don't know. Now, it's biggest cinematic regrets. I don't know. There's only one film I've ever walked out of.
Yeah.
Which was a Twilight film that my ex dragged me to. But I was not expecting that to be good going in. It was the last Twilight film.
Actually, can I retract my answer?
And I
Twilight New Moon.
And I did not expect much going in. However, in terms of a regret, there's a couple that spring to mind. Mainly because I thought because I was pissed off because they could have been so much better. Now, Brainbug said something in there. Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
Now, Assassin's Creed could be up there for me, because that as a video game franchise has more than any that I can think of, has the potential to be a great movie.
Yeah.
And they fucked it up badly.
And I mean, and you know, the guy they got to play you know, the assassin, because I don't know if it's actually Desmond or some other random assassin descendant. You know, I can't, you know, he's a good actor, because he's the one who plays young Eric.
Yeah. But I think if I'm going to give my answer, though, I am going to stick with what I said a few minutes ago. Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes was a fucking abomination to a great franchise. That now I know there's been there's some issues you can point out with some of the sequels to it, but when they brought it back, when Rise of the Planet of the Apes brought that franchise back again, And
that needs to be that trilogy needs to be its own episode.
Yeah, I mean, just Rise of the Planet of the Apes needs to be its own episode, honestly. But
and I think as well, the Charlton Heston version of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
I know it's dated. I know it's old, but it's a classic.
Yes,
it's a brilliant movie.
We could
at that final scene, and I'm not even American, and I wept.
Yeah, we could seriously do a month of the Planet of the Apes, and do Charlton Heston Rise, Dawn, War.
I can tell you now. I don't want to give too much away, but there is the best reaction I've ever been in to a cinema crowd was in Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And it was the callback to the original film of "Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape."
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that one, the only other time I've been in a cinema that had a massive reaction like that was at the end of Deathly Hallows.
Mm.
And that's because that generation of people who were in that cinema had followed those movies all the way through.
Mm.
And people left there, in bits.
Yeah. It's mainly the one I'm talking about. It was just one moment that there was a collective gasp from the audience.
Mm.
You could hear you could feel the air had been sucked out of the entire room at one moment.
Mm.
On your left.
Mm.
Yeah, on your left always got a giggle.
No, I'm talking about in game. On your left, and then just that scene.
Yeah.
The other film I'd say got a big reaction, just for one moment, because the rest of the film was crap, was Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, which, by the way, most of that film was awful, but the appearance of Wonder Woman got a cheer in the cinema.
Yeah.
That was something that's everyone was suddenly, God, we sat through this crap for 2 hours already, and there's God knows how much longer there is to go. And then it's the Wonder Woman appearance, and everyone's like, yes!
It was worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, I came up really only going to see the Potter films in cinema, and I remember the Hermione punch. And that was something special. That got a cheer.
Yeah.
I think the first film I ever went to see.
I remember the first
at the cinema. I think was The Jungle Book.
I'm gonna show my age.
They were replaying a lot in the early '80s. They did a replays at the cinema of a lot of old Disney films.
Oh.
I think Jungle Book was the
first movie I ever remember going to see at the cinema with my parents at the Showcase in Leeds. We went to see The Little Mermaid, and this is the most 90s comment I'm ever going to make. We went to see The Little Mermaid, and my Tamagotchi died halfway through. And that just immediately reveals everything about my age.
I just want to respond to
first movie I remember seeing was either The Lion King or Toy Story.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to respond to what Johnny the Apostate said. Yeah, that was the best moment of an otherwise not great movie. What I was describing.
Though, sometime in the near future, I want to do a 2-week on The Prince of Egypt and Road to El Dorado.
Okay.
Prince of Egypt?
Yes. It was the first animated DreamWorks movie.
Yeah, I know, but...
Yeah.
Hashtag religious trauma.
My earliest cinema memories were Disney films because there was a lot of them being replayed. And cinema wasn't a big thing to me because I went to see Jungle Book, and I went to see Snow White when that was being replayed, then Pinocchio when that was being replayed. But I think it was when I was about 6 or 7 and there was a movie night at my primary school. They actually did movie nights there where they would set the big projector up and show a film, and and parents could come there with their kids. It was like a little fundraiser for the school kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I saw Star Wars.
I'm going to show my age. Does anyone remember Saturday morning cinema for the kids? Where your parents would take you and for £1 you saw like 2 kids' movies and got a snack.
Oh, that's before my time. Or after my time, maybe.
My cinema was still doing it. Or for like £5, they kept you there for like 4 hours, and so many movies I saw like that as a kid. And they were never the latest releases or anything. They were always sort of older movies and kids stuff. But it was a fun couple of hours. It got us out of the house, which I think was the entire point. And my local audience did that.
Yeah. I've never seen any of the Mummy movies because I grew up under the rock, being known, under the rock known as growing up.
The New Testament rock. Got it.
Yeah.
So what do you think? So what do you guys think of the Rock?
Which one?
Well, the actor, the Rock. What do you guys think of the Rock?
I remember.
It doesn't matter what you think of the Rock.
But anyways,
hey, I remember him when the only thing we knew about the Rock was that we could smell what he was cooking.
Anyways, closing thoughts.
Okay, for me, Deadpool, just a hilarious movie. The best parody straight satire of the comic book genre there is out there, and there have been others. As I said, there have been others that have tried to parody this, even stuff that has been based on actual comic books that were a parody, like Kick-Ass, for example, which is a funny movie in its own right, but that was a parody of the comic book genre. You could go back to Mystery Men or superhero movie, so nothing touches it the way Deadpool does, as just pure great parody of that. And you do not have to be familiar with anything in Marvel or anything to go and watch that movie and get a laugh out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Deadpool remains the only movie I have ever gone to see in the cinema and immediately on leaving gone and added it to my wish list as the DVD. And immediately bought it when it was released. Like, we bought it the day it was released. And watched it again. It remains the only movie I've ever done that for. Says it all.
Now, as kind of a lead-in into next week, since we've decided to do Deadpool 2 next week, Deadpool is, Deadpool, the first Deadpool movie is a great, parody satire. And like I said, it's one of the 2 finest, superhero movies, especially to come out of the X-Men franchise. And, they're both rated R. First one being Deadpool, second one being Logan. And if it weren't for Deadpool, Logan probably would have never gotten the green light. But I will say I do like Deadpool 2 about as much as the original Deadpool.
I enjoyed Deadpool 2, so...
Yeah.
I'll have to rewatch it before I concur.
Yeah.
Because it's been a while.
Because I will say, for all the good Deadpool the first Deadpool does, it feels like Deadpool 2 has a little bit more thematic substance to it.
Again, can't comment until next week. You know what my memory's like.
Yeah.
I'd forget my head if it wasn't screwed on.
But anyways, let's move on to shilling.
Okay, I'll go first then. Yeah, come check out my channel. Come check out I've got a Patreon as well. Next stream I have planned for my channel is I've been doing a regular stream on Thursday afternoons UK time. That's morning in the US. But where we've been going through some of the stupidity of certain people on Twitter. I'm calling it the wacky world of Twitter at the moment, the whole series. And thus far, we have gone through Pastor Greg Locke, Kevin Sorbo, the transformed wife, and what was it? The LGB Alliance, and
you missed
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah.
What's the other one we've done? Someone on. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this week. However, Ring here pointed me in the direction of someone I was hoping to save for a later episode, but has been putting out so much fucking stupid online. So join me at Thursday, 3:30 p.m. UK. That's 8:30 a.m. Eastern in the US. Lauren Boebert, we're going to be going for her Twitter.
Yeah.
That could be interesting. Yeah.
That looks like it's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. That could be an interesting fucking stream.
Yeah. Noodle?
Cool. So, as usual with me, I do the Asterix streams with Scummer. Next week it's on his channel. I also do my gaming streams on a Monday night where I'm playing through Death Stranding, or, trying to play through Death Stranding. And you get to watch me fumble and struggle and just have fun with it. The entire point of those streams is that I'm not a gamer and I'm showing this is how real people play this. It's not all professional and perfect, and I'm gonna die, I'm gonna fall over, I'm gonna make mistakes. That's the entire point.
You definitely delivered last week.
Yeah, I was. I got lost and confused, and apparently my in-game sense of direction is no better than my real-life sense of direction, but it's still better than Mr. got lost in a northern town. So how dare you laugh at me, Ring? And if you want to hear more about that, subscribe to Ring, get Ring Shield, because we need to get Ring to 200 subscribers for the Embarrassing Stories stream.
Yeah.
27 away.
27 away. Come on, guys. Can I just say, those of you in the chat right now, please like and share this or whatever. Let's shield for Ring. Get Ring to 200.
Let's get Ring to 200.
And get Noodle to 100 as well, for the record.
I'm also here. I'm User Noodle. So subscribe to me too if you're interested in gaming streams and whatever else I can come up with at whatever point I come up with it.
Okay. And so, as always, I have, secular D&D on Saturday. And of course, next week is Deadpool 2. And in the description below, and also being posted in the chat right now, is a link to a Twitter poll I put up earlier this morning, where you can help me decide which pairing we are going to start with for Rock Opera Month. Currently, Tommy and Hero is ahead. And of course, we're talking Tommy by The Who, and Hero the Rock Opera by a bunch of Christian groups.
Which is actually surprisingly good considering where it came from.
Yeah. Not making promises, but maybe might have an edited video coming out this week. We'll see. Also, I put it out either yesterday or on Thursday. I think it was yesterday, but if we get me, so either at 250 or sometime during Pride, whichever comes first, I will be doing a gender Q&A. If we get me to 250 before Pride, I will be doing a name reveal during it.
Get ring to 250.
Yeah, let's get the name reveal out there.
And of course, in about a month, Scummer, Sam, and Cult Baby.
Forgot about this.
Those are the 3 confirmed. Will be raiding Kent Hovind's compound, also known as Dinosaur Adventureland, to try and get his try and get tax money for the IRS.
Wow. Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons seems pretty bad. It's
it should be destroyed in water.
See what I have to put up with?
I gotta say, I cannot do inmate 06452017 as well as you do, Ring.
Yeah. Time to pay up, Hovind. But
yeah.
Yes, that's going to be a D&D one shot. That was for reference on one of my streams. I had Ring and Sam, and they just got talking D&D, and I just jokingly said, "How about a campaign where you invade Dinosaur Adventureland to get Kent Hovind's tax returns?" And I just threw that in as a joke, but Ring and Sam saw the possibilities there.
Yeah,
so I think that's going to be like a one shot.
So it'll be a special one shot. Basically timed around my birthday. So, it'll be like a birthday April Fool's-ish type stream.
Yeah. Cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And of course, I have a Patreon and a Teespring. Once again, special thanks to Santi the Sane and GeoSam. And of course, one of the patron benefits is when I do polls, like the one I put, the Twitter poll I have up right now, where you're helping me decide on topics and content, is I put another one on my Patreon for my patrons only that is weighed a little heavier. So if you want more votes, also, I'm thinking, Patreon money might be going towards getting me like an actual webcam, because trying to do this with just my computer is getting kind of annoying.
It might be going to me to get actual better StreamYards at some point. Possibly.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So,
if you'd rather not, be a patron for me, be a patron for Jeff, so Jeff can actually.
I actually want to say
get paid StreamYards.
And I actually want to say, Junny's in the chat, and Ox have been in there. Thanks for joining my Patreon this in the past week. I do some Patreon content, just so you know. I haven't gotten around to it this past week. Just been like Snowdon was doing stuff, but I do have the attitude that if people are going to be generous enough to give me their money, that I want to give them at least a little something in return for that. And so, I hopefully I'll get something out to you in the coming week, maybe a video, or but I am doing Patreon only content.
Yeah. And with that, let's move to taglines.
Well, I'm not going to do a tagline this week. I'm going to leave you with a final thought, and that is this. A lot of people have asked me this week whether or not we should gloat about the death of Rush Limbaugh. My answer to that is no. No. However, to quote Rush Limbaugh himself, no means yes if you know how to look for it.
I feel like we should all respond to the death of Rush Limbaugh in the same way he would respond to the death of a young black man in America. Is my opinion on that one.
And, well, so I'm going to borrow from Ocean. I'm going to borrow an Ocean quote. Is, you may die, but your legacy lives on.
Yeah. Cool.
Anyways,
so,
tagline.
Take care. Go on.
May all of your stains be large ones.
And as always from me, take care, be good, and if you can't be good, use your noodle.
And as Deadpool demonstrates, be queer, be immortal.